Namaskar, good evening. Thank you to the viewers of Pandit Ravi Shankar Music Foundation once again joining us in the episode Reflections celebrating 100 years of Bharat Ratna Pandit Ravi Shankar ji. But friends, before we start this session, let's be thankful to the God of the 20th century who left for the heavenly award today, the 48th death anniversary of none other than Baba Alauddin Khan Sahab. Baba Alauddin Khan, who is a distinguished legendary musician of Indian, who cultivated, elevated, and transcended the instrumental faculty of North Indian classical music during the 20th century. Baba principally expertised in sarod, but also used to execute stage performances on rabab, shursingar, violin, and tabla. He has musical lineage with the Senia Gharana initiated by the great Mian Tansen. He cultivated for the development and progression of Indian classical music among subsequent generations. He was the greatest teacher and could shape a mediocre into an excellent and an excellent into a maestro. And the maestros he gave to the world was Pandit Ravi Shankar ji, Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Sahab, and many more in the list, who took the Indian culture of music to the world platform and made famous in the world scenario. So, to begin with the show, in the series of our reflections, today we are having an eminent personality, and he is none other than Padma Shri Rajeev Taranath ji, one of the world's leading exponents of sarod and a distinguished disciple of Maestro Ali Akbar Khan Sahab. He was the fourth foundation scholar and researched during this period on the teaching techniques of Mahir Alauddin Gharana, and also he took his lessons and guidance from our none other than Bharatan Pandit Ravi Shankar ji and also Srimati Anupunna Devi. So on behalf of Pandit Ravi Shankar Music Foundation, I welcome Shri Rajeev Taranath ji. Mama, pranam.
Well,
Mama, pranam. Is it audible? কেমন আছো মামা? কেমন আছো? মামা আপনার আওয়াজটা অনেক ধীরে আসছে মামা। আপনার আওয়াজটা অনেক ধীরে আসছে। হ্যাঁ, এখন ঠিক আসছে। And একটু মামা একটু ক্যামেরাটাকে আপনাকে নিচে করতে হবে, স্লাইড, যে আপনার পরিষ্কার ছবিটা। হ্যাঁ মামা, এক্সাক্ট। And to speak with Rajeev Taranath ji, senior most disciple of Pandit Ravi Shankar ji, I welcome Gaurav Mazumdar. Gaurav, namaskar.
Namaskar Nabarun. Dada amar pranam. What a pleasure to see you. I'm very happy to see you, and I welcome you to this show where we are going to speak about Pandit Ravi Shankar ji. And also, as you know, this is a centenary year 2020. So let's begin the journey, and we would like to hear your reflections on the great maestro Pandit Ravi Shankar ji. So you were beginning to tell us about your journey, and
yeah, well, I first heard him and saw him, Pandit Ji, in Bangalore in 1949, and he immediately became a symbol of what's the best in our classical music. It is he used to come. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well, very well.
In those days, he used to come frequently to Bangalore. He was interested in Carnatic music, especially the manner in which Carnatic music handled tal. So he would come to Bangalore and go to Madras. And of course, he had one of his older disciples, Rama Rao, who is the father of Shubhendra Rao. All right.
Yes.
And after that, I just went on listening to him whenever he came to Bangalore. And in 1952, he came for the first time with Khan Sahab, Ali Akbar Khan Sahab. Till that time, I did not care for Sarod because what I had heard was older Sarod players like Sakhavat Hussain Khan and so on. And I did not care for that kind of sound of the Sarod. It was too staccato for me. And then Khan Sahib came, Khan Sahib and Panditji, the very first rag which they played as a duet. Chaturlal was on the tabla, was Puriya Kalyan. And Khan Sahib just took off. He soared in the sky, and the whole audience was mesmerized. From that time, I had a desire to learn Sarod from Khan Sahib, and I tried for about 2 years more to get the right kind of contact with him. And finally, through Chetan Anand, the elder brother of Dev Anand, I got that contact. So now I became very close to this gharana, this family. Didi was there, Annapurna ji, and Robuda used to come and go off and on. And both Robuda, Khan Sahib, and Didi, in a different manner, were my three murtis. Instead of Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, it was Robuda, Khan Sahib, and Didi.
Wow, wow, wow.
What more can I tell you?
I am mesmerized at this story of 1949, the first solo you heard of Guruji, and then the Jugalbandi subsequently, and then of course meeting the other members of the family, and this trinity. This I have heard this before in your interviews.
Yeah.
And I would definitely want you to elaborate on this. Why Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh? What made you take them to that pedestal? And for us students of music, it's very important you take us on a journey.
Listen. Now, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, they are the creator, the preserver, and the destroyer of the world. They are the Trinity. I mean, the whole of life, birth, life, and passing away, all that is symbolized in these three people. It's the ultimate comprehensiveness of life. Do you get me,
Yes,
Gaurav?
yes, I'm listening to you very intently.
Now, in the music of these three people, that utter satisfaction, the fullness, the comprehensiveness of all life's experience, the essence of all melody, which becomes, I suppose, spiritual. I don't like the word spiritual, but I have to use it here. Just the fullness fullness of life's feeling, a darshan of the essence of life, how life comes, grows to a full extent, and then disappears. All that is found in these three people, each one of them, and all three together. I went to Khan Sahib in 1955. And I was there with him for 6 years. A family in Kolkata.
This was in Kolkata. Okay.
Yeah. এই জন্য আমি বাংলা বলতে পারি।
English for everybody to understand, and
yes,
people are watching from all over the world, Dada.
All right.
I want everybody to follow what you're saying, which is so
well, I'll talk to you in whatever English I know. That's all.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I was there for 6 years, and then I came to Mysore, and for very personal reasons. Well, shall we say, I mean, it was an unsuitable kind of marriage that I got into. I shouldn't have. My ambitions, my desires, my ideas were very different from the lady I married, who herself was my best student. A very fine sitar player, and later on she started playing sarod. Panditji knew her. Panditji, he knew her. Because long before I knew her, when he came to Mysore, he would stay in the house of her father and mother. So he knew her. Anyway, after that, I used to meet Khan Sahib off and on. I would go to Kolkata, or I would go to Madras when he came there, and he would teach me. In the meanwhile, I practiced. I started playing. I started playing on the radio. Later on, in 1989, I got this Ford Foundation Fellowship. Now listen, this is very important.
Yeah.
I wanted to make a study of the teaching techniques of the Mayhar Alauddin Gharana. And I chose 2 people as my main informants. One was the son, Ustad Ali Akbar Khan. The other was the disciple and son-in-law, Panditji. And my own research was to find out if there is any difference, if any, in the manner which the teacher adopts and the manner in which it is received by the son, who as a child has no choice. The father gives it to the child. The child doesn't know anything else. And the disciple, because the disciple has to make a choice. Panditji made that choice. He was very happy in Paris. He was having a lot of fun time. He gave up all that, cut his hair short, and came to Mayhar to learn at the feet of the great Baba Alauddin Khan Sahib. So I wanted to find out the difference between what is called in linguistics acquiring and conscious learning. Gaurav,
Yes.
You will understand this if I put it in terms of language. Every child is surrounded by language from the day one. You understand?
Yes.
Parents, friends, aunts, uncles, they're all very excited about this new child. And the child grows up in that atmosphere. He's not consciously taking a book and learning that language. The language is absorbed by him, acquired by him. That is what the linguists call it. Acquiring. And it's also known as L1. L1. Later on, you might learn the same language. You are a Bengali and you grow up speaking Bengali. Now, in initially elementary, stuttering Bengali, slowly cleaning it up, listening to your elders, your friends. Later on, you went to school and studied Bengali under a teacher. Bengali was one of your subjects. And that is the difference. One, you absorb. The second, you consciously learn. There is a student and there is a definite teacher. You understand?
Yes. Yes.
So I was thinking of Khan Saab, the son, the child, and Panditji, the magnificent disciple, the man who gave up everything and came as a poor in a very simple clothes. He came to the great Baba Alauddin Khan. This was my subject. So Khan Saab by now was in America. It was Panditji. Now listen to this. This is very important.
Yeah.
After my marriage, I had, for very personal reasons, I was in great practice, of course. I used to practice 2 to 3 hours every day. But public performances, it was not my profession. I had become a teacher of English literature. I had an MA and a PhD. And so I went on. I was a lecturer and then a professor at one of the top English teaching institutes of India, the Central Institute of English in Hyderabad. Panditji used to come to Hyderabad once a year. And I would go and pranam him, and that was it. Kamanacho. Okay. But that day he said, "You wait, I want to talk to you." Panditji said, "Wait." He was talking to two other young people, teaching them to play Tanpura with him in the evening's performance. They went away, and then now Panditji asked me to sit down, and then he said, "Now you are a prosperous professor, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, yes." "You have good flat in which you live, and you have the best students," and so on. I went on saying yes. And then suddenly he turned on me. He said, "Aren't you ashamed? Are you not ashamed? You get all this from our gharana. We teach sitar and sarod to hundreds of people all over the world. Not everybody gets that sound. You are trying to get your teacher's sound. And what do? You go and teach Shakespeare, Milton. Are there not others, thousands of others, who can teach Shakespeare and Milton? But who will play my brother's music?
क्या बात है?
I am ever, ever, ever grateful to Pandit Ji.
क्या बात?
He said, now, will you do what I ask you to do? I said, yes, sir. He said, resign that job. I resigned. I was 51, Gaurav. I was 51. I resigned. Then he made it possible. He said, go back to him. My brother, he forgets everything. I'm sending you back to my brother. He sent me back on a Ford Foundation fellowship to San Francisco, and I rejoined my guru. And this was 1989. And I went on learning from him. He would ask me to attend every class in the college and then go home to him and learn from him, where he sat with his sarod, I with my sarod. Do you understand?
Yes.
And for all this, if today you are talking to me as a musician, it is Pandit Ji who is responsible. It is Pandit Ji who is responsible for my getting back to music. Otherwise, I'd have been lost. Well, I would have got a promotion, I'd have got a good salary, probably retired as a professor or a vice chancellor. Yeah. At 87, I'm 87. I still perform. I still give concerts. I still teach. The main reason for this, the main and only reason for this is Panditji.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I went back to Khan Sahib. He said, "Arey, tum aa gaye." He has come back. All right. So of course, both Panditji and Khan Sahib were extreme, godlike generosity. Godlike generosity. They never withheld anything. This is my story.
Beautiful story. Beautiful story. That takes me to that incident of, you remember Purvi and allied ragas, the talim from Guru.
Yeah.
I want our viewers to hear that experience from you, because that was a marvelous teaching schedule with the Pandit Ravi Shankar ji, and complex ragas like Purvi and the allied ragas.
Listen, I'll tell you, I went to Panditji's house at the Lodi Gardens, huge bungalow. You were all there. And then I wanted to interview him about the Ford Foundation. He said, "Taranath, you give me all the questions. One day I'll give you all the answers. I'll call you and give the answers." That was Panditji. So later on, he came to Bangalore. He was with Ramarao's house. And he called me one afternoon. I couldn't make out his voice. I said, who am I talking to? And now I'm quoting. They call me Ravi Shankar. Any objection? Yeah. Then I immediately drove to Ramarao's house, and then he was very disturbed by some of those questions. He said, because of you, I can't sleep at night. All right, sit down. And he went on talking. Question number one, question number two, question number, all that covered. And suddenly he said, Taranath, can your Sarod go to C sharp? I said, yes. I normally play at C. Don't you snap your string? I don't know why I said it. So if one is in good practice, you don't break strings. Oh, really? Go bring your Sarod. My house was not very far. I drove, put my Sarod in the car and drove back fast. By the time I came back, Panditji was ready with his sitar, sitting like, the beginning of a concert or something. Then he said, I am bored with this interview. Let us play. Let us play. And he taught me Shukla Bilawal. Dere da, dere da, 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 da. Dere da, dere da, na, da, da, dere da, dere da, da, da.
Madhyameshwam.
Madham. That has been an unforgettable. It has been carved on me. It's not only my mind, it's my body. Mind, you get ideas and they fly away. But once the body gets it, it stays. Once the body gets it, it stays. Then, of course, that evening, it was the Purvi. You were there?
No, I have heard about this legendary.
You were not there.
And I have heard the cassette. So I want to hear it from you all over again.
He sang and I sang, and what's that? Radha Krishna was there, and
I want to hear
Rama
that.
Ram.
I want to hear that Purvi from you.
It's not very fresh in my mind at the moment because there was so much noise. Everybody was interfering. But this morning's Shukla Bilawal was aha, aha. And I found a rare recording of Khan Saab playing Shukla Bilawal.
Oh, wow.
And he's playing Shukla Bilawal almost the way Panditji taught it. Almost. Da, da, da. That very typical of Panditji. Da, 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 da. That kind of thing. And very difficult on the Sarod. Khan Saab tries to do that. Yeah. Go on.
I'm trying to go back to that moment. and try to be a spectator, a listener, a student.
Do you play Shukla Bilawal?
I try to play. I won't say I play. I have heard and I have learned this composition from Guruji. And there was another ancient composition. This is a composition of our Gharana. So I have learned these two compositions and I try to play it in my music room. I won't say I play it in concerts and all that, but I do.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Shukla and all the Bilawals Guruji taught. So I've had the good fortune of learning from him.
Guruji was a wonderful, wonderful teacher, insistent teacher. And suddenly I would take off into some other interpretation of a line. And he said, now, you're trying to slip into my brother's throat? Get back. Play what I tell you. He would insist till I got it. And the same is true of Didi Annapurnaji. She admired Panditji a lot. You know, although she was, well, you know, she was not young, her voice was always young.
Yes.
She sang beautifully.
Yes.
And then she would ask me, she taught me Kaunsi Kannada. And he said, play. I play with a lot of influence of Kansa. He said, that is my brothers and it's no good. वो ठीक नहीं है. पंडित जी बजाते हैं, सुना कि तुमने? Have you heard Pandit Ji playing it? I want that. And she sang. Well, that's different. It's a different story. Sad, very sad. Very sad.
You know what makes me think? Whenever Guruji would teach, you have learned from him on many different occasions. He would not just teach one rag in isolation. If it was Shukla Bilawal, for instance, he would always start with the source, Shuddha Bilawal, Alaiya Bilawal, then slowly go into Devgiri, Yamani, and then later go into ragas like Shukla Bilawal. And how beautifully, the best thing what I liked always, which I want you to speak to us about, how he would connect all these ragas, that there is a common source for all this. That's why it is a Bilawal.
And the way, there are the two things I'll tell you. Then he would ask me to go on playing Shukla Bilawal. I played. He said, look, be very careful. You're going to, if you're not careful, you'll slip into Manj Kamaj.
Correct. Absolutely.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Gapa ma. Gada pada gapa ma gari gari ta. Gari gapa. This keeps it in Bilawal.
Gare gapa, yes.
Yeah. This keeps it within Bilawal. No matter what you do, gari gapa. Nita gari gapa.
And even he incorporated that in Sarparda Bilawal also, where it is a straight Rega Mapa Dha.
Yeah.
And he taught Sarparda Bilawal to me, I remember, but he said you have to bring in that Gare Gapa because it's a Bilawal.
Bilawal.
And how beautiful.
He had that thing about the most important phrase, most important movement overarching one raga and all the other ragas of that family. Now, for example, Yaman Kullan. Pa re ga re sa ni re ga ma da ni re ga re sa ni ma ma re ga ma ga re pa re. And Panditji said it, pa re is what is making it Yaman Kullan. You'll find it in Shuddh Kalyan. You'll find it Yaman Kalyan. You understand? क्या बात थी वो बात. You fellows are very lucky.
How he analyzed, he took every element apart, take it out, expand it, and then rejoin it and put it in front of you.
That's because he knew the difficulty of being a student. A son or a daughter might take many things for granted. But when a student comes in, he has given up so many other things. He's fresh. And he's also grown up. He's not a child. He has made a conscious choice. I call that tapas. Tapas. This is what the rishis did. When they give up everything and meditate on one thing. And that is the status of being a student, a disciple, a shishya. And a shishya is different from a chhatra. Do you understand?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Dada, there is one thing I want to ask here, if you allow me. It's connected to what you just mentioned. Why was it? And it's a question. I'm going to ask this question directly. When you heard Guruji, you would close your eyes, he tunes his sitar, he begins. He doesn't even need to announce. And you start to get a feel, oh, I think he's going to play Yaman Kalyan. Oh, I think he's going to play Bhupali today. That's one part of the question. Second is, he would start, and within the first few notes, the whole rag will come and stand in front of you.
That's what he called Auchar. Auchar.
How was that possible? Why could he, and why was his Bhupali different from Yaman? Why was his Yaman different from Bihag? But it was not one mold where you just pour the notes and it comes out as a different. Every rag was different. Every
and a different mold. Yes, yes.
And I want to hear from you because I consider you to be a very, very, very knowledgeable practitioner of our music and our gharana. And I want to, as a student, I want to hear this from you.
I cannot answer. I cannot give you an answer. Nobody can give you an answer.
Let's try. Let's try.
Why that happens? One can only make polite and difficult guesses. Panditji, especially at the beginning of a concert, he used to go on strumming the sitar strings in the beginning till the whole hall was filled with that resonance. He was very conscious, supremely conscious of where all these ragas are together and how it is his very delicate task to keep them separate while showing that they are all the time related. He wouldn't split them away. No, they are all related, but they are not the same. That kind of keen consciousness. You know what? I'm very fond of saying, if Panditji had not become a great musician, he would have become a great atomic scientist.
I believe you.
He had that kind of superb intelligence. Superb. I haven't come across anybody with that kind of intelligence. To make very subtle discriminations. It's a very difficult task. You are a performer, you should know by now. Within 10 minutes, you're playing one rag and it sounds like many other ragas. Am I right?
Yes.
Very, very, very subtle distinctions which he showed consciously. And once that was settled, he just lost himself into the raga. He became the raga. But to establish the raga, he achieved a tremendous task. A tremendous task. And the other thing which I noticed, and I'm always grateful for, maybe for 7 more generations to come, is the care that he took of not only you people, but of Khan Saab's student like me. He needn't have done it, but he did. He was informed, he had heard, and he said, "You are a decent player. I said, "How do you know?" You said, "You don't talk." আর কথা বলতে হবে না. And he had heard my latest cassette of some performance. He needn't have, he's Khan Saab student, why should I bother? He didn't say that.
No. Never, never.
He didn't say that. He knew the difficulty of being a student. Children don't know. But a student, the great act of choice. I'll do this, and there are 1,000 others which I could do, I won't. That is the task of a serious student. Am I understood?
Absolutely, absolutely.
He knew that. And he left the luxury, comfort, and fun of his brother's house in Paris and came to Mayhar and was seen walking with a small tin trunk in his hand and a close-cropped head. And I've heard about it. Now that he had to do, he realized what it was to be a student. He knew everything that I did, everything practically. What can I say? What can I say?
We are blessed, brother. That's all we can say. We are blessed to have him blessing us, caring for us, looking after us, teaching us, giving us this music. And no amount of gratitude is enough.
Yeah, and what care he took, how he worried. What is this fellow doing? Where is he gone? That kind of questions. Annapurnadi had that. But that is a different story. Today I am alive because of her. Otherwise I would have died with Amasha, amoebic dysentery. That's a very different story. I can't talk sometimes. Today I'm talking to you about Panditji and how she admired his music. And she herself, when she played, they were very close. One could immediately make out which was the source. And sometimes he was also very generous. He said, look, your guru, he doesn't think, he does this and that and that. And suddenly he takes a movement in a raga. Nobody has taught him that. He has learnt it in heaven and he has come down. And Panditji would be lost in thinking about that movement. In Khan Sahib Sarod. And he also had a lot of fun with me. He used to give me tans which say Magarita, Magarita, Tanida. They are difficult. Dara, Dara. On the mass string you play an outward Da, and on the second string you play inward Da. Very difficult. I've seen only one person doing it, and that's Ashish Khan. Nobody else. Ustad, Amjad Khan. He does, but he changes the bowl. But Ashish went on with the Dara, 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 Dara. Magnificent. Because he learned his early music, early riyaz, early murchana and strokes from Annapurnaji and Panditji in Delhi. Later on, he went to Kolkata. I was there when he came to Kolkata. See, what I'm telling you is, Panditji is well known as a very, very superb musician. Now listen, from time to time in history, there comes an artist who changes, who transforms the art, who expands the art. Shakespeare was that to literature. Beethoven was that, and Bach was that to music. Panditji was that to music. I have heard records of earlier people, great artists, but sitar as well as sarod were constricted instruments. Panditji released it. And it is silly just to talk about Panditji adding a laraj string and yeah, of course. But the imagination he had, an imagination like the sky. You don't know where it begins, where it ends. Endless. He transformed the art. And the same is true of Khan Sahib. Sarod before Khan Sahib, I didn't like at all. Today I'll go to my grave with my Sarod.
Ah,
And
yeah.
all right, now you talk.
I'm listening, I'm enjoying, and it's absolutely wonderful. I knew I was in for a treat, and that's why I said we have to speak to you, because how precious is your experience, how precious is your knowledge, and how precious is your sentiments for these great musicians, how pure, how true, and how much it's not blind, it's not blind belief or following somebody blindly. It's gone through its own. You have taken time in really analyzing them. बोलते हैं ना, सुनना सीखना परखना. You have done all that before giving them that, putting them on that pedestal and calling them Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. I'm sure it didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
And it's an experience for us, because for us students it's a learning experience to hear what you're saying, because these are born out of true incidents in history, in time. Things have happened in a certain way and moved you in a certain way and made your being in a certain way of who you are today.
Listen,
and it's very precious, very precious.
I want to tell you one more thing. You are a performing artist. Somewhere, I don't know how old you are, how young you are. One day, you will know, you can see the phenomenon very clearly. The match, the problem of a match between your imagination and your technique. How the imagination affects your technique, how your technique affects your imagination. That is a fascinating subject. Tell me some other day about it.
Definitely. There are two incidents here. I must mention this because I have had the great fortune of meeting Annapurna ji also.
Oh.
My family from Allahabad, they were very close to the Mayer family. I'm from Allahabad, and my uncle was Sri Nalin Mazumdar.
Achha.
Baba Alauddin Khan Sahab and Guruji and Ali Akbar ji, Annapurna ji, they used to come and stay in our home. And as you know, both Khan Sahab and Guruji, they started their career from the Allahabad University Music Conference.
That's right.
So, this is all before I was born. I'm much far too young to have seen all those days of them really putting their footprints into, Indian classical music. I met her, and there are two incidents. One is not connected to me directly, but I'm just reminded of it because of the incidents you told me. And one is a direct with me, I remember. So there's a musician, and I don't want to name because the story is more important than the names here.
Yeah.
And he used to learn from few different musicians, and he went to Annapurna ji, Ma, as he would call. And he sat there with the very same Maj Khamaj what you were singing.
Yeah.
And he said, Ma, you have taught me like this. And I've heard it from other people. I've learned it from other. And Pandit ji has taught me like this. Which is the most authentic? Which one should I follow? And she said, don't follow anybody's. Follow Pandit ji's. That is the
There you are.
This is one incident which is not there. I wasn't there. This is second incident, me being there. 2 days I spent with her in her Akash Ganga. And she was absolutely One, like you said, she took care of you. I was that time, I didn't have money to go on a flight or a AC first class or a second class. I took a second class normal coach to go to Bombay, and she knew about it. When I was coming back, I had a train early morning. She woke up in the morning, she cooked food, dry, and in a like পুরোনো দিনের বাঙালির বাড়িতে হতো না মিষ্টির
Huh.
ডিবের মধ্যে, she put about 6 or 8 parathas because she knew from Delhi, Bombay to Delhi that it was an overnight
Yeah,
journey.
yeah.
I must have at least 2 meals, enough parathas, dry aloo ka sabzi, and in the side, 2 sweets.
Ah ha ha ha. Ah ha ha.
And she said, "Eta niye jao. রাস্তায় খেয়েও স্টেশনের খাবার খাবে না, it's not always clean. Eat this and a bottle of water." This is one aspect. All this is blessings for me. It's not food, it's blessings.
That's right.
Most important, when I'm leaving, she comes to the door, and a person whose door it was written, she doesn't meet anybody, don't ring the bell.
That's right. Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday, there's that up. But because I put a chat Mazumdar Allahabad, she opened the door, and I was 2 days, I got time with her. যখন আমি ফিরছি উনি কি বললেন আমাকে, I'll never forget that. Says রেয়াজ করো, তো আমি, and I couldn't even look at her. I'm not, আমি যতটা শিখছো, তখন আমাকে বললেন দেখো আমার দিকে, আমার চোখে দেখো. So then I with lot of I had to muster my courage to do that, and she said to me, "You are with a person who is an ocean. Take every drop because you will not get a guru like him."
Ha 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 ha. Ar ki chao tumi, huh?
And it's still ringing in my ears. I can still taste that food in the train. I can still, and the 2 days I was there, she cooked food herself and served it also. And shivering, and
Mother.
and mother, and same thing. And there is a connection here. There's a connection between Baba and how Baba's family in Maihar was. There's a connection between Guruji, Annapurnaji, and Chinnamma, Sukanyaji, who's watching this whole show from London. She maintains Dada the same sanctity, the same atithi, the way if you are there, she will not let you go without feeding and cooking for you, making sure your journey is comfortable, and making sure like a mother to find if you are okay. There is something to do with Guruji here. Guruji's talim, his heart, his large heart. And even in his, I remember I spoke a lot to Revoti Babu, Guruji's oldest disciple, who if he was alive today would be 100 plus years, maybe 110.
Oh.
He is no more with us.
Yeah.
And I was very close to him. He would tell me that even in the days Guruji was struggling, he would go and play house concerts and get 50 rupees, 100 rupees.
That's right.
And in that condition, Annapurnaji and Guruji would be feeding 10, 15, 20 people.
There you are.
Parite, if you go to their home, you don't return without eating.
Ah ha ha ha.
If he knows you're struggling, you don't have money, he will put money in your pocket to me, train a ticket ta kine, you don't worry about it. It's not about music alone. It's not about music alone. It's a lot more. It's a lot more. And we are blessed to have witnessed these people touch their feet, sit at their feet and listen to them speak, sing, play, and get a blessing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel the same when I speak to you. I have utmost regard for you. I salute you, I pranam you, and I bow down before your knowledge, Dada. I really respect you.
May your gurus bless you. You have their blessings, and those blessings continue. God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Stay
You
well.
stay well. You stay
Stay
safe.
well.
Dada, my pranam to you. And I will call Nabarun, who's Guruji's nephew. He's doing a wonderful job. And through the Pandit Ravi Shankar Music Foundation, he's bringing Guruji's music to remote corners, to children. And we are together trying with Chinnamma's blessings. And the whole family is together. Your family, that's why I said, without you, this program would not be complete. We have to have you. We had to have you speak and document it forever. Now it's going to be there for people
Yeah.
after
Yes.
100 years.
Yes.
When they will be celebrating Guruji's 200 years, they'll be listening to your interview.
Okay. And
Mama
anything
pranam.
I can. Dekho.
Mama pranam. And
Arey, thako.
বলুন
Okay.
বলুন মামা বলুন আমি শুনতে চাই
একটা কথা গৌরব কোথায়
আমি এখানে আছি
আছি আছি
আচ্ছা শোনো now I want to tell you something. Anything I can do for this foundation that you have, feel free to ask me.
We will definitely,
Mama.
without
Definitely.
hesitation, we will come for your guidance. We will come for your support.
Don't ask me for money. I don't have money.
No, we will not ask for.
একটা বাড়ি ছিল ওটা বিক্রি করে দিয়েছি
We will not ask for money.
এখন ভাড়ার বাড়িতে বসে আছি
You have got something more precious, which is this beautiful music and a beautiful
art
experience, which we need, and it's a pleasure.
It
Mama,
is at the
Mama,
service.
just sorry to interrupt. Ekta dada ami mamar theke I want to ask a question to the viewers and to the young generation, because such a senior most person of that gharana is sitting in front of us, and we should be blessed by that person who is sitting in front of you. Mama, what steps should be taken by the institutions and gurus to drive the young generation towards our route, that is Indian classical music?
Now that's a very, very big question. Talk to me another day.
Okay, Mama.
Okay?
Okay, Mama.
It doesn't bear a short answer. It's a very important but a very big question.
Yes.
Talk to me another day.
Come to you. We will come back to you. Thank you. Our pranam.
Thank you.
God bless.
Good night, Mama. Take care.
Good night.
And
Good night.
to the viewers of Pandit Ravi Shankar Music Foundation, next week we will be there with another eminent personalities celebrating the 100 years of none other than Bharat Ratna Pandit Ravi Shankar. Till then, stay safe and good night.
Good night.
Gaurav,
Good night.
All right.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Mama.
Pranam, Dada.